Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Itamar I'm a VIP tour guide in Israel. And with us today, my dear friend and someone to admire, Murielle Cohen. Hello. How are you doing, my dear Murielle?
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good.
Hello.
I'm in Jerusalem, as some of you know, and Murielle is right now near Ashkelon in the south, but her passion is Tel Aviv. Behind me, you can see the beach of Tel Aviv and Jaffa. And today we'll continue to focus on Florentin, the beautiful neighborhood of Florentin. So I thought I'll find a dear friend that is deeply connected to this neighborhood. But let's do first things first, right? Like, who are you, Murielle? Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm a mom of 3 kids. I'm from Montreal, Canada. I live in Israel for quite some time now, and I'm a street artist. I do graffiti on street walls in Tel Aviv, mostly. Oh.
Yeah. So this is a nice picture of you with Marie Antoinette, I guess.
Yes.
So anything you want to tell us about this piece? It's really big.
Sure. This piece in particular, usually most of my pieces I get some permission, but in this case I didn't get permission. I just covered a wall that was pretty much destroyed. So I just went for it. But usually I ask for permission. So in this case, I was afraid to be caught by the police. So I made it on wood, and then I pasted it up on the walls, on that wall. So
this is the good material for the police to arrest you right now?
Well, pasting it up on a wall, once it's already made on a piece of wood, it takes very little time to do. So this is why I didn't want to do it. But also I found out later that this piece was not, someone tried to take it and started ripping it off. And yeah, and I think they managed because they found a way to like knife the glue, because it's like you can knife it from the sides, and they managed to take it with them. But whatever, it happens. It's not mine once I put it on the street anymore.
What a challenge.
That's the beauty.
Yeah, I love what you said. Like, it's not yours once it's out there. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So I noticed a few of your works in Florentin, like these two, that the focus of it is women. We had Marie Antoinette and these 2 ladies. So you have a line of these kind of
yeah, everything that I do, I work in series. So I basically go up to 8 to 12 pieces, mostly between, I guess you would say 10 is pretty much as I go. So everything that I do has a series. So this is called public personas. This is my son, by the way. He just popped in. I love Zoom. You could just, these things happen and it makes it more charming. So it's part of public persona. So I had like the Queen Elizabeth eating a hamburger, and it had its own sentence, like, gosh, I can't remember, because all my work is with sentences. So it's like, it's part of my work. Actually, before I actually create it, I actually write it down first. So I don't sketch like most artists do. I just write a sentence, and then I understand what that image is going to be. So it's a different type.
No, I understand. But would you say that this is some kind of your expression of feminism in some way?
No, I did a series on feminism versus chauvinism. So it was a study on the relationship between men and women, and I loved it. It was all about that. I'm not a chauvinist. I'm not a feminist. I'm somewhere in the middle, where like I listen to both sides. It doesn't make sense that there's a battle of the sexes. It doesn't make sense at all to me. We need each other, to create, to procreate. So no, it's not me. But I did make a study on it. I see these series as like a study. So this is why I explore more than one. I go up to 10 to 12, sometimes 8, depending on the study.
Fascinating. Okay. Because you were born in Canada, and I can't remember, you made Aliyah how much, like 20 years ago or something like that?
No, 13 years ago.
13 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the place of Israel for you? before you made Aliyah and after you made Aliyah?
Before I made Aliyah, it was always like a dream because my parents' dream was to do Aliyah and they never did. So we lived in Montreal and they were always dreaming about it, talking about it. But, you know, once you get a lot of children, like in our case, 6 kids and a nice business going and moving forward, you can't just leave all that behind because you have this dream. So I guess I continued the dream without even realizing it. I didn't know I didn't know it was going to be a dream of mine until life kind of took me that way. And it wasn't a dream. Like, actually, when I first came, I was like, wow, I'm so happy we have a country, you know, it feels so good to know that we have a place to run to if we're in despair or something happens in the world, because you never know, you know. And sometimes these things are right around the corner and they hit you by surprise. So it was so nice to know that we have that, you know, something to hold on to. So that was always in the back of my mind. But did I think that I would come live here? No, I never thought. It just kind of happened by surprise.
And something that I know a little bit about your biography is that you lived in a few countries and your family is from Morocco. So it reminds me in a way of Herzl, that also was moving around from different places. So with this picture of Herzl, I just wonder if you can, you know, maybe tell where you live and how this affected your decision ultimately to move to Israel. That's.
What do you want to know about Herzl? I mean, why did I put Herzl?
No. My question is, you lived in different countries. I think you lived in France for a while and America, right?
Yeah, France, Paris, like Paris. I lived in Milan, in Italy. I lived in England, and I lived in New York City, Manhattan.
Yeah. So kind of like Herzl that moved from one place to the next. Ultimately, you decided to move to Israel, and you kind of changed your life completely, maybe your family's life. So what ultimately led you to move to Israel and make Aliyah?
It's kind of a long story, but let's try to make it short. My doctor, I suffered of eczema my whole life, and my doctor told me, hey, you're always taking cortisone. Why don't you just go to the Dead Sea? So I said, okay. I went to the Dead Sea and it disappeared for 6 months. And then at the Dead Sea, I went back. This was the first time, yeah. And then I went back years later and I was like, oh my God, my eczema, I'm hospitalized. It's just gotten to the point where it's really bad. So I went back to the Dead Sea and that's where I met the father of my kids in the water on the first day I arrived. Wow. Yeah. So on the first day I arrived, straight from the airport, it was early that morning. I remember I went straight to like my bed and breakfast at the kibbutz and Gedi. And then after I went straight to the sea and I met the father of my kids. So that's how things started for me.
So pretty. Beautiful story. Okay.
And I don't have any eczema at all. And I've suffered it my whole life. I'm born with it. So it's like, this is the place that I live in and I need to live in. And it's not just because of the eczema, but because I have to admit, at first it was very difficult for me to live here. I just felt so different, you know, I just felt like it was going to take forever for me to like learn the language, you know, understand the mentality, start to find myself within a new country, new mentality, new everything. And it was very difficult at first. So then we had left and came back to New York for that 1 year. And I remember something happened. It's kind of like an incident that happened to my son. He woke up one morning and he couldn't move his neck. And the next morning he couldn't move his arm. And I was like, I went to the emergency room and then they diagnosed him with something else. They gave him this special this thing. I don't they thought it was Kawasaki, so they put the serum inside of him to diagnose it, and they found that they made a mistake, but the serum now cancels out any kind of diagnosis that you can do for the future for the next 6 months until it wears down in the body. So we were kind of stuck in the hospital with a little child that couldn't speak and tell us where it hurts. So it was a very, very difficult time. And I was kind of living in that hospital. And one day it was my birthday and someone came up to me and said, you know, what are you going to do for your birthday? I said, I'm in the hospital. I mean, someone in the hospital said, what are you doing for, you know, a friend of mine came to visit me and says, what are you doing for your birthday? I said, obviously I'm in the hospital. I haven't left this hospital. And I was with my son. And that day I had a realization that I'm taking my son back to the country where he's born. And he was born in Israel. I made sure he was born here. The father's from here. And then I imported him back to New York because I had a business and I had a life. And then when I realized that on my birthday, I signed myself out of the hospital, and it came with the responsibility of showing up to the hospital every day. And by the second day, I had bought a one-way ticket to Israel. And I had brought a very sick child to this country. But when I did, I just fell to the ground and kissed the ground with this baby that at this point could walk, but he couldn't walk because I was holding him. And then I went straight to the hospital from there. And I knew I made the right choice.
Yeah. Wow. These are many, many signs that you got. So great. Thanks for sharing. The next slide here that
and for those who want to know how my son is, my son is great. It took a while, and he was on medication for many years, but I just felt so safe here. I don't know how to explain. I just felt safe. I don't know. I just felt like home, and there's no other place in the world I ever want to live in. Like, really, I just find it like a blessing. Sometimes I leave. I was a traveler. I was always traveling. And then sometimes I leave to go visit my family in Canada, and I'm always crying. And something I never used to do. Like, I'm always crying. I don't want to leave Israel. I don't want to leave Israel. I just don't. And when I cry is because I'm like, I just hope, I pray. And like, it sounds very weird. Maybe they say being on a plane has an effect on you. So maybe it has an effect on me, but I pray that I come back. It's the weirdest thing, but I never thought it could ever happen to me because I'm such a traveler. Oh my God, I'm traveling all over the world. I've traveled all around the world. I had a job. I was a model in my youth, and I traveled the world. And I was always, even on my free time, I was traveling. And this is the first time in my life I don't want to travel any other place in the world but Israel. So I travel a lot still, but within Israel, with my kids, with my husband, sometimes alone. I need to travel. It's like it's a need, but I don't want to travel any other place but Israel. We had to go to Amsterdam with the family at one point pre-COVID, like France at one point with the family. I just couldn't wait for the weeks to pass by so I could come back home.
Thanks for sharing. This is very, very passionate thing that you just said.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah. So the next slide is something that has, I don't know how to describe it, like a popularization of two very famous characters, maybe. I don't know, King David and Jesus.
Yeah, this is also part of the series called Public Persona.
Yeah.
So we got King David over there. We are what we buy, right? And I just made King kind of big. I just imagine what King David would look like in today's day and age, with all this consumerism and capitalism and all this stuff that influences the human being so easily. How easily we are influenced. We have to follow a trend, or we have to follow the sheep herd, or whatever. We're human. So I just kind of gave my interpretation of a David today.
What you just said, like a sheep herd, he is a shepherd. Like maybe he would lead the campaign.
Right, totally.
And because we're recording this about 2 weeks or even less than 2 weeks before Christmas, then for maybe Christian viewers of ours or people who have Christian or Western background, we see here Jesus, we've made it in Israel with the tefillin and the talis. So it seems like there is also some sort of a interfaith dialogue in this piece that I just wondered what's your take on it?
Okay, well, first of all, see those tags? Tags are like when people write graffiti, but they write it instead of start spraying it. There's a tag on the top and a tag on the bottom. Yeah. So there's a rule on the streets. You're not allowed to go over their works, their tags. So what I did is the original wall, it's actually a door. I just painted blue around the tag to respect the space of that tagger. It's his territory. And there was nothing in between. So I painted all of the rest in blue. And then I added the Jesus made in Israel. And then all around, people just started, painting, sticking stickers and doing things all around it, which is fun. It's like, it seems like it's part of something, people are adding to it. I think it makes it more beautiful.
Yeah, there's still community and respect between you artists.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's this, I made this piece because if you want to hear the story, there's this guy that came from the US and he befriended a whole bunch of us street artists, and he was very nice to us, and we took him on, with us. We took him under our wings, and we were, Israelis are very I consider myself an Israeli right now because it's contagious. You become very hospitable and very kind, and you want to help anybody you want. It just brings out this this love, chutzpah. You tell it like it is. You see what you get. You see what's in front of you. All this I've adapted, which I really am grateful, because I'm the most real I've ever been in my life. Okay, and it just saves so much trouble to be so real. Like you don't have to apologize for anything. You don't have to have excuses for anything. You don't have to even be super sweet when you don't feel like being nice. It's a certain freedom, So anyways, so this guy, he was really nice and he befriended us. And then at one point he went back to, now talk about the sheep herd. This is very sheep herd in my opinion. He went back to the US and people don't want to be the black sheep. People don't want to be the outsider. So he went ahead and he had a great time here in Israel. And then when he went back, he started going with the BDS movement. And he started everybody's telling him, I guess, what, Israel? It's kind of this pressure that I actually experienced when I lived in New York, and I didn't understand it because I wasn't living in Israel at this point at all. So I didn't follow the sheep herd, but I definitely said, why are people so against Israel? I didn't understand. I didn't even research it at that point. And I was just like, whatever, it's their problem. It's not mine, And then this guy, he started to, go against Israel. I don't know, it felt like a knife through the heart. It really was very painful to see all his campaigns and going, against us after all that's been given, the kindness of our hearts. And I don't know, I just felt like he was just a follower, and he doesn't really know what it's about, in my opinion. That was my opinion. You don't have to listen to my opinion, but and it hurt so much. So what I did is I said, okay, well, let's do something against the BDS here, let's be realistic, okay? If you're going to boycott Israel, then boycott everything that has to do with Jesus, because Jesus was born Jewish. He died as a Jew. He was a practicing Jew. That means he wore this every morning. He wore this on a daily basis. He was circumcised, and he had a bar mitzvah, and he ate kosher. So he is the ultimate of what Judaism is, in its most religious form. We're talking 2,000 years, 2,000 and more years ago. So it's let's be realistic. If you're going to boycott my country, let's boycott something else. So I wrote "Made in Israel." I put a nice stamp on Jesus Christ. He died a Jew. He was born a Jew and died a Jew. So, never went against.
Reclaiming of this figure, reclaiming Jesus.
Yeah, know what you're boycotting. Let's not be hypocritical here.
Yeah, fascinating. Thanks.
Yeah.
After after that, and you mentioned the BDS, I didn't knew that you will mention that, but then I see this more peaceful piece, more peaceful graffiti or piece of art.
I could explain if you want.
Yeah. First, it's a lovely picture of you, and this is also in Florentin, by the way.
No, Kiryat HaMelacha. It's a little off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, I put two angels fighting. Yeah. And angels, why? Because we're all God's children, every single one of us. There's not I don't believe in preferences, obviously. And then there's the side where I made a heart, because deep inside we're cousins, So I've got the colors of here I'm kind of talking more about the immediate neighbors, So here let's just talk about Gaza, because I live next to Gaza. So I wrote, or Palestine, let's just put it that way, or any of those two colors represent, with some black, obviously, our neighboring countries. So I wrote, how can there be peace, okay, when there's no trust? And it's actually very straightforward. Yeah. I think something needs to build is trust, and before you give, peace, I mean, peace for peace, Peace for land is another way of seeing it for some people, but peace for peace is number one first. And then let's see what happens from there. There needs to be trust. There's no trust. It's not genuine peace now, is it?
Yeah. By the way, the angels, the fighting angels, brought me the memory of the story about Esau, or the angel of Esau fighting Jacob just in his entrance.
Right.
So there's much to say, I think, about this piece. It's lovely. So yeah, we will hope to have more trust and be worthy of the trust of our neighbors and cousins. Oops, sorry. After saying that, the peace between nations, let's call it, there is something that happened, sadly, in Florentin that maybe you want to elaborate more about it.
Okay, well, it happened to me. This is the second time around. It happened to me in 2016. I had a bunch of works on the street and someone came and destroyed them within a period of a week. Wow. All of them. With, it's very easy. You take a spray can, you go shh. And back then I had studied the lines or how it was sprayed. And it wasn't sprayed as like roughly as this is or any other. You were nice to take this picture. There was way worse than this, So I had approached, how do you say, a peer, like an artist. I had the feeling, I'm kind of like, I feel things, I felt that it was a peer of mine and there was no reason because he was a friend. So I had approached him and I said, did you destroy my work? And he didn't say that he did. And he didn't say that he didn't. So, and in the past, he has had a reputation of destroying works that he admired. So then I was like his new victim. But what was weird is that I was a friend, like a friend. I mean, we didn't get together or anything, but he'd come to my openings and he was always there to support and he was there to say hello. And I knew his woman, his girlfriend, everything was cool. And he destroyed my works. And then I put an ad, like on, not an ad, but like a video on Facebook and so many comments. I think it went up to like, I don't know, 10,000 views and like something like 600 comments on like how low that is. And ever since then, and I didn't even drop names because I don't believe in dropping names or shaming anybody. I just said, this is what's happening. And I guess he must have read all these things that people had to say and he stopped. So that was okay. I went back to fix some of them and some of them I just let them be and I move on, right? But I have to admit that it did kind of stop my creative juices in a way. It brought it down, like it reduced by a lot. I'd say in a good 60% it reduced. And then I finally had the strength, 2 years, I kind of took a break from street art and I went back like about a year and a half, 2 years later. And I just went and made some more art and I was back, on the scene, excited, inspired. And then this other guy comes and destroys all my works and I didn't know who it is. And I was just heartbroken at this point. I was like, I don't even want to go to Florentin and see my works shattered, So I just didn't want to work. I didn't want to see it. And then this girl who's like a documentary filmmaker, she asked me, can I just interview you? I said, sure, you could interview me, but there's nothing left of my work. So if you just want to interview, fine. But even better yet, let's do an investigation through the interview, right? Let's walk around. It's more interesting for you if I walk around and we do an invitation. If I'm going to show up there, at least we're going to do an investigation, something interesting. And through the investigation, look how funny this is. I was looking at it and I knew who it was. Like, I mean, there's so many street artists, it could be any stranger who can't stand my work. It could be anything. And I knew who it was. And to confirm it through this investigation that was recorded, we ran into this other guy and I said, you see these circles? Because I saw he was doing these perfect circles and it's very difficult to do such perfect circles in a certain way when you're using the spray can. And then you see what kind of spray can he's using, the ones that leave the dots and all that. So I saw that circles were going all around the city. So I ran into this like graffiti guy and I said, hey, do you know who did these circles? I had photographed it and it was all being recorded. And he says, yeah, it's such and such. And I was like, I knew it. Like through the investigation, I knew it. And he confirmed it. So I called him and it was being recorded. And he told me, yes, I did it. I want to see you go down. I don't like your messages. And I was like, you're jealous, And then I started, no, I didn't tell him you're jealous right away. I was just kind of shocked. And I was like, I was in shock, first of all, that I figured out the second investigation. But two, he wanted to see me go down. Like, who are you? And he's like definitely the pioneer of graffiti. The first guy that took me down was the pioneer of street art, which is really weird. These are older guys. And I understood that. I think what happens is that when you're an artist, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to be an artist because you're doing it by yourself. You don't have someone telling you, hey, you're doing a great job. You don't have that much,
feedback.
It's lonely. It's a kind of lonely thing. You're doing it,
and
you need that. And then you try to make a living out of it. Like, who would understand? Not everybody would understand the way your brain works. And you have to understand marketing. And most of them don't market. And most of them don't know how to, bring themselves out there to make their view being seen by the world. Nobody can understand. It's like a whole new art, just that art form of marketing or that art form of being seen on social media. Nobody really knows how to do it. Nobody really, if you're a real artist and you're into yourself and it's insecure, it's a lot of insecurity, a lot of buildup and all that stuff. And then suddenly you become a little crazy. Yes. Now, most artists are very eccentric. I'm an eccentric and I'm proud to be an eccentric. I'm very proud to be an eccentric. But, and it doesn't mean that I'm a weirdo or anything like that. If I know that I am, I can be very straight but I'm missing my freedom, Yes. Being an eccentric is like being the child that in you that didn't go away. That's how I define eccentricities. So these people are eccentric, but then after they're even more eccentric because they're so sensitive and it hurts them and they don't know how to deal with themselves. So outside of themselves, they have to destroy. Some people destroy lives around them. Some people destroy what they have. Some people destroy their own paintings. Some people will go destroy someone else. And this is what happened. And I was a victim of bullying.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't know that you could be a victim of bullying at a late age, from a stranger. Yeah, there's bullying, of course, in relationships and all that stuff, but a complete stranger that you kind of know vaguely, I didn't know that was possible. And I am so grateful I wasn't bullied as a teenager because I wouldn't have the tools that I have today as an adult. So I said, wow, so it really played on me, this bullying, that I was like, if I was a teenager, how would I have dealt with it? Then I understand why a lot of teenagers are like, they would commit suicide or they would fear because this guy was like a bombarder. This guy, when I found out, he would I'd call him and then there was just so many things. I ran into him on the street and he would scare me, and I had to even buy a mace. And it was just a lot of patronizing because we're from the same neighborhood, Florentin. So it was very hard to deal with him and to deal with myself. But the good thing about it all is that I needed to heal and I needed to heal very fast. So a lot of people were like, my husband was like, be zen. And I was like, I'm not so zen, but I'm not going to retaliate. A lot of people were like, I would just go to all these pieces and destroy. I said, that's not me. Now there was this, I had to find out who I am through this experience. Oh. And then I realized that what I'm going to do is I'm going to interview all my peers. So all the graffiti street artists that I know, and I know a lot. And so I interviewed them all. And I made a documentary out of it, which I'm editing presently.
Amazing. So when will that be ready to go?
Hopefully. Well, now the thing is, I was supposed to edit it a few months ago, but then I got these interns that want to do art. So finally I got an intern in January that wants to edit. So I'm like, yay, because it's so boring. Like I told you, art could be very boring. Why am I a street artist? Because I go off on the streets, I make some art. Yeah, it's not boring because I got the street, the noise, the people coming up. Hey, you want some help? Yeah, scratch this. Hey, paint a little bit here. Yeah, use my spray can and do the contour. Total strangers. And I'm like, it's interactive. I can talk to people. It's not boring like I'm painting at home, So this is why I'm a street artist. And this is why I like to do street art, because it's very interactive, yet I could still be creative in art. So here it's the same with anything that I do. Like editing would be so cool to just, I love editing, but it's so much more fun when you have someone next to you. I don't know. That's how I see it.
Beautiful. So we're waiting for that to come. I want to ask you, one last question. After that, if you want to add anything else, that's fine. How was COVID for you? I chose this picture because of a few things that I know that happened to you during COVID, but how was COVID for you? This whole crazy almost 2 years.
Okay, well, let's just say I discovered myself through COVID as well, which is great. You know, at first, obviously, like everybody else, we were all afraid, and it affected me like everybody else. But then there came a point shortly after that I decided that I got to make the best of this. And the best was to start enjoying the time with my family. And I did. And I started to bake, and I always cooked, but even more so, I started doing more gourmet food. And then I started loving home, which I'm so not a homebody. I'm a person that needs to be out and about. And suddenly I found myself being home. And then I started seeing that I like being at home. I love it. Like, and now that like COVID is somewhat better than it was, and people are kind of understanding a little more what it is, I don't want to go out anywhere. And I'm not vaccinated. Okay. Now I'm not vaccinated, not because of this conspiracy stuff. I really believe COVID is so real. You know, I know because I caught it way before it arrived to my country, and I didn't even know that I had it. And I had a refall. I had it for 2 months straight with a like interval of a week of like break, but only through the time I understood, wow, I had COVID. It's because I'm exposed to tourism. So obviously I had COVID, you know, and it was so strong. Oh my God, I thought I was going to die. Honestly, I went to the doctor 3 times. He was like, listen, your lungs are fine, you know, just rest. And I was sleeping days over days over days. It was just really hardcore. So anyways, I didn't get vaccinated because I said to myself, I got it. 2, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm really sensitive. I think that if anything, my instinct tells me is not a good idea for me as a sensitive person. Like, I don't really take, if I have a headache, I'll fight the headache. I won't take a pill, or that's how I was raised. So anyways, then they say, okay, you got to have this green pass or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you can keep the green pass. I don't need to go to the movie theater. I don't need to go to the restaurant. I don't need to go to this event. My husband, you know, is a musician, very well-known musician in Israel, and his sister is a even very, very well-known singer. And she had this show, and I couldn't go because I didn't have the pass. And I was like, oh, like, darn it, you know, like, it sounds very bad. My husband's right behind me, so he could understand, because it's the type of person that I am. I don't need to follow anything. I don't want to be, even more so. I became stronger because I don't want to follow this, you know? It's my way of saying, you know, like, I'm a follower. Like, I love people. I respect people, but in my own way, it's my way to retaliate against like a system. And some systems are good, and some systems are not necessarily very good for me, someone who likes my freedom. Now, I'm very respectful of my surroundings, and therefore I don't even go into the world. I like being here. I work right now. I'm working on a series. I'm going to be editing from home. I love it. I love it. I see my kids come home from school. I'm cooking like super gourmet. I can't believe I'm actually baking, but I'm baking like crazy. I'm doing things that are so much fun, you know? And like, my parents were workaholics, literally. Right before COVID, I felt people were running after their own tails. And I was like, when is the bubble going to burst? Like, not that I wished, not that I knew that it was going to be a pandemic, but I was like, it's just, it's running on like, I don't know. It's like, it's a wheel that keeps running on itself. It's like you're running after your own tail. It just felt like too much pressure, too much stress, too much of everything. And I just needed the world to like calm down. I just knew the bubble was going to burst. I just didn't know how. And it did. And the good thing is that my parents were workaholics their whole life, and I didn't get to see my parents. And here I'm just so happy that I'm not, first of all, I was never a workaholic, but I did work a lot. And then now I get to see my kids come home from school. I was never a spender. I was never a shopper. I'm pretty much a recycler. I live in a very nice big house, but everything I have is pretty much recycled, from furniture to things I found on the street that I refurbished myself. I'm an artist. Like, you know, I'm an artist in the sense that like, I don't need to follow the thing of like, you need to buy this product. I don't need to buy anything. I'm in control of my own self. I'm happy with very little. the least, the better. And I'm a minimalist as well. I don't have that much stuff around the house, which every time I do see the things I see with my own eyes are things that I love. So I'm always surrounded by the beauty, you know, because everything reminds me of someone or something.
Sentimental. It's not IKEA. That's
no, it's not. Although I did buy a butcher block at IKEA or some sheets at IKEA, and I bought 2 frames of new beds for my kids at IKEA, and that's nice. I'm not against IKEA, but I love the mixture of stuff. Like I have my husband's grandfather's like big, you know, and something else in my daughter's room that I refurbished. You know, just give it new life. I was never. It's funny because like all my life when I was a kid, I wanted to be so much with my parents. I used to look up to some of these friends of mine that used to go shopping with their parents, you know, just shopping, or their parents would take them to this place or that place. And I used to be like, I wish my parents can take me to this place and that place. I wish. And you're complaining that you're going, you know, on the trip. And like, I just wish I could spend time with my parents. Yeah. So everything that I wished, I'm trying to give it to my kids, and hopefully they won't take it for granted, you know, like my friends did. But I don't think so. Because even though, you know, I'm there for them and everything like that, I make sure they're very independent. Like we were very independent as kids. I make sure they do their own thing. I'm not this mother that's like, oh, okay, you know, let me do this for you. No. Do it. I love you. Do it. And they like respect me. You could do it yourself. I'm not going to do it. No. And they're like, but you're right next to me. You could do it. You could do it faster. Like, I don't care. I'm here next to you. Yes, I'll always be next to you, but you're going to do it.
Beautiful. And your relationship with technology now improved during
improved. Yeah, it improved. Yeah, I was a technophobe, but I realized I'm not a technophobe. Funny enough, I realized it during COVID. I thought all this time I was a technophobe. That's why you see this picture over here. It was a series on the street on technophobia and, you know, my intake on technology. Anyways, so I realized that I started approaching technology that I was so afraid of. I see technology as like a new language, you know, and I guess I was afraid or insecure that I could learn a new language. And slowly but surely, I'm not there yet. I'll never be there. And I'm enjoying it more and understanding it more, and I feel accomplished with it. But it still has to be something like this. I'll show you my tablet. This is great because you could use this pen over here and everything's by hand and everything's intuitive. So it's the artistic side of me, you know. I realize I'm not, thanks to this tablet, I realized that I'm not a technophobe. I'm actually afraid of numbers and letters. I'm afraid of numbers and letters, like letters when you type, and numbers in general. So I realized I'm not. I could understand the approach or understand the mindset behind the technology, but I can't. I don't know. This is what I realized. I have a
lovely. I must say, I was very impressed from the way you're self-taught, right? You study with I don't know, I guess podcasts or YouTube channels that informs you about all the different things you want to do. You just click, I want to do this. How do I do this? Right? So you feel like you got more independence during COVID because of your changed approach to technology?
With technology, it got better, definitely, through COVID. But COVID is more about like not running after my own tail anymore. Like just believing that everything's gonna be okay, you know, instead of like, sometimes before pre-COVID, I could say I was more like, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do, like, just imposing some kind of weird stress because it makes me feel like I'm productive. But really, productivity is made of just very simple things, you know? And then I realized it's not running. It's not associated to running with your own, running behind your own tail. It's mainly associated with letting go. So when I understood that, I accomplished way more. I can't even explain it more than that.
Can we expect any, I would say, theories about COVID or like the time that you went?
No, actually, like that? I'm working on a series right now. If you don't mind, I could love to show it to you really, really, really quick if you'd be interested.
Let's see how
I'm working on a series on, it's called on global warming. So well, this is on war. I'm still not finished with it, but this is like a collage. I start off with a collage that I make.
Wow.
You know, I incorporate a lot of images together, turn it into a collage, posterize them, which means I'll show you some pieces that are already posterized so you get an idea. This is posterized. It's called Toxic Marriage. Okay. And then I'll show you another one that's posterized. Just a second. Yeah, this one. This one is called Driven to Extinction. Mm. And then another one that's posterized. This one. Happy Earth Day. That's the title. Yes, Happy Earth Day. And then I have, that's posterized. So you saw the things that are before they're posterized and then things that are after posterization. Okay,
Murielle, we got disconnected, but I saw the dinosaur. I heard about your amazing new series about climate change. Looks really brilliant. And thanks for sharing that with us. So I wondered if you have anything else you want to share about about Florentin, lastly, I don't have any more questions for you. You really, I just enjoyed the interview so much. So,
what can I say? I could wish all of you, you know, to find your way with this COVID and the situation. Times are changing. So I'm wishing everybody to find their way, you know, because once you find your way, then there's a balance. So that's what I can wish for everybody, because I seem to have found my way. I'm always finding my way. So I wish that for everybody, you know. So I wish you all peace and finding your way to happiness. Yeah.
So we both work in tourism this way or another, and we only wish you guys, our viewers, you enjoyed the interview. We wanted to shed a little more light about the street art and about Florentin and Tel Aviv. And as I said from the very beginning, Murielle, thank you so much. Like, I really admire you and your work. It's just so much fun. And thank you for sharing your story with us. It was just so fun and entertaining to have this evening. It's like a little bit rainy now in Jerusalem, and just feel so cozy with you. So thanks again for the time you dedicated for me and the viewers. And
it was my pleasure.
You all the best, my dear.
Yeah, thank you so much, and enjoy.
Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And see you soon in Israel, I guess, right?
Amen.
Amen. All the best, guys. Thanks again.